guys, what's up? It's Joe Rady from Rady's Rides. I'm back here at one of my secret undisclosed locations because guess what? We have a very, very special car that many of you, believe it or not, have been asking me for. I have this 1997 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX, and what makes this even more special is that this is actually a Rady's Rides subscriber by the name of Hunter. He brought his car out just to have it featured because it's interesting. I remember there used to be tons of these out on the road, and it seems like now you cannot find them anymore. So definitely a big, huge thank you to Hunter for bringing his baby out for us to feature. But before we dive into it, let's talk a little bit of history about what this car represents. Every time somebody says Mitsubishi, they always think EVO. EVO, EVO, EVO. Well, guess what? Mitsubishi has made other great vehicles that really were true performers. The Eclipse hit the scene back in 1990. The one behind me, this is the second generation. There were a total of 3, but the first generation, the original, was in 1990, if you could believe that. What's fascinating is you could have it trimmed out many different ways, even going full all-wheel drive, just like the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. Now, what's great about this car is that it's become one of those cult classic favorites that people, it's one of those things, people who see them, that know them, immediately just gravitate to them, and it's a neck breaker. And then other people, it has them scratching their head, hey, what is that car? But one thing is for certain, in the 21st century, Mitsubishi has kind of moved away from making awesome vehicles like this one. And I really want to focus, what we're going to try to wrap our minds around is that, hey, if you don't want an EVO or everybody else has one around you, should you go with that iconic Mitsubishi Eclipse, especially the GSX? So let's go ahead and dive into this particular one. So you could see generation 2, a little bit of a change up in the styling. What I do like on this particular generation is you have the just iconic shape to the headlight design. This styling just screams 1990s. If you weren't around back then or weren't a car person back then, really do some Googling. Use the Google on the World Wide Web and try to find out what was this styling. So everything kind of had like a nice rounded look to it. So you have your headlight housing. All of this is original. This is a color called Logan Gray. That was the original color back then. You can see some lower fog lamps, and on this one, there's been some modifications. Of course, we're going to start up front. It's Captain Obvious, a front mount intercooler. So this is a turbocharged inline-4 engine. We have the custom intercooler up front. Going up onto the hood, Logan's, we're trying to do a little bit something different with his Eclipse, from going from the Logan Gray, a little bit different color. Now on the hood, you're going to notice this major rise, and it's only on the driver's side. A lot of people say, hey, is that supposed to be like that? Yes. The reason why is that the way that the engine is situated underneath the hood, that's where your cams, the cam cover and everything, when you open up the hood, you'll see it's located right here. So because of the way the engine sits in the cradle on this chassis, you have to have that bulge. If it wasn't there, you'd close the hood and you would actually make contact with that cam cover. Now, as we come around the bend, you're going to notice that we have about 1.5 inch drop on the car, just to kind of help with handling and also help with the look. We're running these beautiful Enkei wheels, bright silver. I really feel that this type of wheel is perfect for this generation. They're very light and they look really good. Great brand, 17-inch wheel, 225 on the width, 45 series sidewall, and you can see that we have cross-drilled, slotted, and fully ventilated rotors. So that's going to help give you some nice consistent braking capability and also helps dissipate the heat. That's important when driving one of these, especially because Hunter takes this to the track and you want to be able to go but also slow down as well. Going down the side, you can see we have the side sill extension, the way it kind of flares out at the bottom. Belt line on this car, everything is rounded. I'm telling you, use some time to research. 1990s cars had such a rounded appearance to them. You do have a sunroof on this particular Eclipse, and as we work our way back, nice triangular quarter window here, and then probably one of my favorite things is the rear spoiler. Now, this is not something that Hunter added. This is actually a factory wing, and it really just kind of evokes what was happening during this time, because think about it, Toyota Supra, everybody knows Toyota Supra, the Mark IV with that big wing. That wasn't the only car. This Eclipse GSX has that wing, and it's great that it's all left original. Now, as we drop back, I like what he's done with just some nice flat black, along that top section and along the lower portion of the rear bumper. And then when we're talking about an exhaust, we're looking at an HKS system, 3-inch system, all the way back from the turbo. But why don't we go ahead, let's pop the hood and see what's powering this Eclipse. All right, guys, we got the hood popped. Underneath the hood, you could see the work that has been done to this particular car. Now, what are we looking at? We are looking at an inline-4, 2-liter turbocharged engine. Now, originally, when this car was brand new from the factory, you were looking at around 210 horsepower. The car weighs around 3,130 pounds. You're looking at that 16G turbocharged engine, ETS front mount intercooler, the Walbro fuel pump 850cc injectors, and then of course, Hunter thought it would be smart, go through the gearbox and really beefing that whole system up. But you're gonna have your Greddy blow-off valve. And then even like I was telling you, remember how I was telling you about that bulge in the hood? You could see where you have your cam, this is your cam cover, 2 camshafts under there, and then you can see where those gears are, how if this closed, if that bulge was not there, it would actually make contact. Now, Hunter is thinking that with all this work that's been done to it, you're looking at around 370 horsepower to the wheels. So definitely a major step forward with horsepower compared to stock. But why don't we go ahead, if you're ready for an eargasm, I'm ready for an eargasm, let's go ahead and fire up Hunter's Eclipse and hear what it sounds like. All right, guys, we're inside Hunter's 1997 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX. This, I almost feel like I'm in a DeLorean. And I know you're probably scratching your head, huh? The reason why is it feels like I'm in a time machine. The way that Hunter has been able to do some modifications, but on the interior, a lot of it is that original flavor of 1997. So let's take a little trip down memory lane and see what the styling and what the interior looks like on a 1997 Eclipse GSX. To the door panels. Now you're gonna notice that it's very single color tone, but I'm glad that they went with a nice dark gray. I think the dark gray really kind of sets off, especially with the Logan gray color. A little bit of black where the door handle is, and then super small door pocket there. You may not wanna put a Twinkie in there because you're probably gonna squirt cream everywhere. So save the Twinkies for the center console. Don't put it in that door pocket. Now, as we come to the dash, this is when things were getting interesting. Airbags. If you go back just a few years before this car was built, there weren't airbags that were all over the place in cars. So we're seeing early technology with the airbags, especially with if this had an original steering wheel, things would be a lot different. But what I like is just a nice, clean simplicity. And if you notice, when you get to the center stack, it's a little tilted for the driver. So it's more driver focused than passenger focused. Of course, you have your good old fashioned 1997 AC controls, no infotainment, no Bluetooth, none of that garbage, just pure driving experience. Even this JVC stereo system here, that is something that people would change out on a regular basis. And I don't know if this particular one has it, but I remember back then the removable faces. So what you would do is you'd push a button and you'd be able to take the face of the system off and take it with you so nobody would break into your car to steal your system. That's what we had going on back in 1997. You got a nice little slot here for some good old-fashioned 90s Jolly Ranchers, and then here's where the magic happens. You know how your parents have a room, they say the magic happens in that room, you better knock before you go in? On this Eclipse, you got that good old-fashioned 5-speed manual transmission with a short throw shifter kit on it, really mechanical in its engagement. And I like this custom shift knob that Hunter put on here. Obviously, it had more of that baseball style round shift knob, but this one I really feel like, especially because you really should be shifting with the palm of your hand, not like doing a Vin Diesel Fast and the Furious. It really feels nice as I go through the gate, so that's a really big plus. Good old-fashioned e-brake. You got a single cup holder. So back then, cup holders were an afterthought. It was nice that Mitsubishi gave us one. You got a little tiny ashtray. You could use that as a Tootsie Roll holder there. And then here is your armrest. It is as hard as a rock, but the good news is you do have some Twinkie storage in here. And then to wrap it off, the seats. Now this is all original, so we got to keep it apples to apples here. We're not comparing this to a totally restored 97 Eclipse, but you could see the style, the amount of bolstering, and I'm telling you, the actual texture to them is quite nice when you're sitting in it. Now, bolstering wise, up top, it could use just a little bit more, and the lower portion really doesn't have any bolstering. But the good news is a lot of people like to swap these seats out. I'm glad that Hunter hasn't, just so I could show you originality. But why don't you come over to the business end, because guess what? There's some things going on behind the wheel of this 97 Eclipse. All right, guys, business time behind the wheel. The thing that I love about these Eclipses is how far the door opens, and you can see also the styling, how they brought the AC vents into the actual door panel. So for air to blow out of there, the door actually has to be closed because it's coming from right over here. Getting into the car though, once you're in, I'm 6 feet tall. I got plenty of headroom in here. Hunter went ahead and added some extra auxiliary gauges. We have AEM boost gauge and a water temp gauge, nicely placed. And he's got another location, I'm sure, for something coming very soon, because like many people that are into cars like these, it's never done. There's always that next thing you want to do. Now with this custom wrap steering wheel, what's cool about it is that you could actually just pull the wheel off, just like that. And to be honest with you, 9 out of 10 times people are going to change these, because if you saw the styling of what the steering wheel looked like with the airbag in it, it was not the sexiest of steering wheels. And one thing we kind of just stumbled across is, remember I was telling you about shift knob? Here is the actual original shift knob. Now, it's seen better days, but you can see just the size difference compared to what Hunter's running in his car right now. But why don't we go ahead, let's get to the best part of any Rady's Rise review. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's take this Eclipse GSX for a spin. All right, guys, we're inside Hunter's 1997 Eclipse GSX. Like I was telling you earlier, I really feel like I've gone back in time. Going back to high school, being around these cars, it just was a totally different time and age. And I'm just really happy that Hunter was able to meet up with us and bring his baby out. The sounds are spot on the money. The exhaust, you're getting some turbo flutter, of course, all the other noises that go with this kind of setup. And you can definitely feel how strong the engine is. Just by slowly rolling on throttle, you know that this engine just wants to get up and run, and I like that. But let's see how we accelerate. I'm just gonna go down to about second gear. On throttle, here we go. So we build the boost, get nice turbo noises. Really, really nice, super smooth. Now obviously with it being turbocharged, you want to be at least 3,500 RPM for that boost to start coming on. But that was just a little taste. We're going to try to find some space where there's not so many cars around and road through the gears a little bit more. But steering feel is something that is lost. With the whole setup in electric racks, having a nice hydraulic steering setup really gives you a connection that you can't find in a lot of cars. Cars that cost tons and tons of money, just because that technology is not being used anymore. So it's nice to have it in here. Instrumentation is 1990s straightforward simpleness. You got your tach on the left, speedometer on the right, you got a boost gauge, and everything else is all analog, super clean. Looking out across the hood, you see that little rise on the driver's side. Other than that, the A-pillars are pulled very far apart. Out the back, of course, that rear wing is going to be pretty much in your line of sight, but listen, there's just certain things that you're willing to compromise when you go a car this route. Go ahead and go get a 1997 Corolla if you don't want to worry about a wing out back. But clutch feel is great, good pickup point. That noise, spot on the money. Engagement with this gearbox is so mechanical. I love the feel of it. Really nice setup. Super. And the great news is, this is a car that you can just drive. You know, you don't have to wait for that one day where it's sunny and all the conditions are perfect. Hunter drives this car, he loves the car, and that's the way it should be. All right, guys, here we go. Gonna roll through the gears, enjoy the turns, on throttle, on the brakes. Great feedback. Just love the way the car makes you feel. That's what's so special about it. Nice power delivery. Here we go through the twisty bit. Such a wonderful experience. Look at this. This is what it's all about, being able to enjoy these cars for what they are, make some modifications, give it a little bit of your own personality, your own flair, and then just enjoy the act of driving. It's not about transporting your body, it's about moving your soul with these cars, and that's what I love about them. If I could have one of these and have every other car that I've ever wanted in the 1990s, I definitely would have this in my collection for sure. All right guys, one more time, we're gonna go through some twisties, we're gonna enjoy this Eclipse. That sound is just intoxicating. Really just a wonderful experience. It's like you think it and the car moves. That's how connected it is to your frontal lobe. Really nice. And with the way that the chassis is so balanced, because you're not hauling around a ton of weight, it's just a different experience. You know, yeah, there's cars with more horsepower. Yeah, there's cars that will break the land speed record, but something like this just provides such a unique experience that is very, very hard to come by. And I think that it just allows you to appreciate the act of driving once again, instead of worrying about everything else. All right, guys, one more time for me, one more time definitely for you, one more time for Hunter. Let's go ahead and enjoy this Eclipse GSX. On throttle, here we go. Through this left right. Nice, look at that. Put the smile on your face. I love it. All right, we better get out of here. We need to get back to the undisclosed location, so I will see you guys in a split second. All right, guys, it's been a wonderful day out here in the middle of nowhere, because guess what? Hunter, great subscriber, brought his car out, this 1997 Eclipse GSX, makes all the right sounds, gives you a feeling that seems to have just been lost in translation with newer cars. It's a raw feeling, a connected feeling that really you have to get into one of these cars from the past to be able to relive it. But I definitely want to thank Hunter, and definitely over at Crown Land Rover and Jaguar, go ahead and see him out there. That's where he works, and he'll be more than happy to show off this Eclipse to you at that location. But if it's small, compact, fast, raw feeling cars that you want to keep seeing on Rady's Rides from the 90s, leave a comment in that comment section. If you're new and you're on your way out, hit the subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile coming back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Rady's Rides family. If you want to help us keep making great content on the channel just for you, click the link in the description, get yourself some Rady's Rides merch. Got to get it up to Victor. We're standing out here in the middle of nowhere, and guess what? He's holding that camera like a champ. So thank you, Victor, for all the hard work that you do. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.